Hey there folks, Purple Marine 81 here. Today's video is going to be going over a Glock, the one that you can see in front of you. Uh, this one in particular is a Gen 4 G23 chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson. This is basically the little brother to my Gen 3 G22. There's numerous videos that I did on that, all kinds of different modifications that were done to it, if you want to reference that. This one, however, is stock. There's nothing changed on it at all. I figured I wanted to kind of do this video before I did any kind of modifications to it and just sort of show you, if you didn't already know, which most of you probably already do, some of the differences between the Gen 3 and the Gen 4 Glocks. And then my take on what they've changed and whether or not I think it's a good idea, and whether or not it's really helped anything. So let's get right into it. The capacity for the 40 is 13 rounds, so pretty high capacity. This is pretty much a carry gun, so I do keep it topped off. So you're running with 14, and the nice thing about it is that even if you're going from Gen 3 to Gen 4, is that my magazines from my Gen 3 22 will fit this. So typically what I'll do is I'll keep this, fully loaded with this magazine and topped off. So I'm running with 14 in the weapon, and then I'll also carry one of my G22 magazines. So I'm running with an extra 15. That's one thing that if you're not familiar with Glocks is a huge, huge selling point, is the fact that all of their magazines are interchangeable. Now obviously you have to go, from larger magazine to smaller frame for it to work, because size won't work that way. You can't go the opposite way. So if you had, this is the compact size, so if you had subcompact, you could use this magazines in the subcompact and the full obviously inside the compact, which is a big selling point for me, because all those magazines that I have for my G22 can be used in this. So it's awesome when you're going to the range, you just want to pump out a bunch of rounds, less reloading, all that. But let's get into some of the differences that they've done to the Gen 4. First thing that you'll notice right off the bat is the fact that this checkering is different than it is on the Gen 3s. This is more like small dots. And I will say I do like this a lot better. This is slightly more aggressive, and I like that because when I shoot for extended periods of time, my hands tend to sweat a lot. And it does help you get a very strong grip and purchase on the firearm. As soon as your hand hits it, it locks in there real good. The other thing that they changed, I'm sure that you're aware of also, is that they changed the back straps on these to be able to be interchangeable. This is a medium size, and for most people that I talk to, that's kind of what they run. They don't really change it out to small or large. The only people that would probably benefit from this are people who have, extremely small or large hands, to where they're going to have to do that in order to, get a decent grip on the firearm, or help adjust their length of pull on their trigger. Other than that, it is stock. As I said, I haven't changed anything out. The other big thing that they did was they changed the mag release button. It is it's more square now, or I should say rectangle shape, and does protrude a little bit more. This does help me out a little bit because I have relatively short thumbs. It does seem to, kind of easily drop, from where it's typically, my thumb is typically sitting, to control than the Gen 3. However, I did change my Gen 3 out to extended to kind of help with that, because my thumbs, as I said, were kind of short. On the exterior of the firearm, all of it, the rest is pretty much the same. You still have the same tender for finish. You still have the same, sight radius. I guess I should probably flip it around so you can see there. Just a standard. And yes, I know I'm pointing this at myself. It's clear before the safety Nazis go crazy on me. But as I said, other than that, on the exterior, all of it is pretty much the same. The only thing on the inside that is different, you get something to point with here and get you a shot. It's not going to do it this way. Sorry, I'm trying to get you a decent shot of this. All right, if it will focus, you can see where I'm pointing there with the knife. This is a recoil spring, and it's not really coming up real well on the camera. But this recoil spring obviously looks very different than the previous models. This is a double capture recoil spring. And what's meant by that is that the guide rod and the spring are not two separate pieces that you can disassemble. And that, I'm not going to take it apart. Well, yeah, I'll take it apart just so I can kind of show you, because this is kind of stupid. Had a hell of a time getting that off there. That's one thing I always have to change, is I'll show you why I was having a problem there. The these takedown tabs on these, I don't know if you can see that there. If you own a Glock, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but I don't typically have fingernails. So these factory ones, they are a royal pain in the ass, especially when they're new and that spring's real stiff, to get that to release. And that's what I was fighting with just a second ago. But yeah, as you can see, you know, interior, all the components are the same, nothing's changed there. All right, now you can see it. Let me get it focused a little better. There we go. I think I was a little too close. Now you can see exactly what I'm talking about here with, you know, this is one spring assembly in itself, and then it's also, it's why they call it double capture, is that it's captured, this spring is captured on the inside of this. So this is very different from the previous models. Now I know that they've had some problems with these in the past, in the 9mm versions. I'm not really going to go into all that, because I know that probably will stir up like a big shitstorm as to, you know, whether or not that, you know, these are junk and everything. And I personally, I have not had a problem with this. And I know that, you know, this is different. It's not a 9mm. It's the 40 Smith. The only thing that I will say is I haven't had a problem with, you know, any kind of malfunctions or anything like that, or not being able to handle certain loads or any of that kind of jazz. The only thing I do not like is, I know that they say that this is supposed to be the standard 18 pounds for this, which is the same as what it was for the Gen 3. But this sucker feels pretty stiff. I mean, it's not like you can't, you know, use the weapon or anything. It's not that damn stiff to where you can't rack the slide. But this sucker, like, I'll show you here. I'll demonstrate this. How violently this slide goes back into battery. Watch. Like, that shook my whole desk. Now I know that's not necessarily a bad thing, but this compared to my 22, and I should have brought it out here so I can give you a side-by-side comparison. This feels like it's got some more poundage on it than 18. Because if my old one is 18, which I'm pretty sure it is, I'll have to double check on that. But this feels like it's a lot stiffer. You know, and I haven't had an incredible amount of rounds through this, but you don't typically break Glocks in. They don't really require that. Because the only time it causes a problem, because of like how stiff this is if I go to try to rack it like this, which I don't typically do, but because you're just basically using these two fingers. And just in my opinion, the rear cocking serrations on Glocks, I don't really care for, because they're not very sharp. They're kind of slick. But that's just a little side note. Your fingers can slip off of it like this before you'll actually, you know, rack around in there. And my hands aren't greasy or anything. They're like a little moist from perspiration. But that's the only time I notice that, and it kind of irritates me because of that spring being so stiff. Now, typically, I don't do that at all. You know, if I'm racking a round, which in my opinion, this is how you're supposed to do it, you power stroke it. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. I'm squeezing it like this. So I'm getting my whole palm and all 4 of my fingers onto the weapon when I'm doing that. Not, you know, that's kind of stupid. The only time I ever use 2 fingers is when I press check. And that's even using most of my hand, because I'm basically putting the whole slide in there, and I'll pop it back and look in and release. But as I said, you know, I haven't had any kind of malfunctions out of it, so, you know, maybe it'll kind of lighten up over time. I know that my Gen 22 did a little bit, but, you know, that sucker's got well over probably 1,500 rounds through it, which isn't a crazy amount, but it's a fair amount. Anyway, I'm kind of babbling at this point. Other than that, you know, it's your standard Glock. You know, so if you have any kind of questions about it, feel free to ask me, or if there's something that I said incorrectly, which happens a lot, feel free to let me know. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day.